these last 2 weeks, I can literally split down the middle and go, we had the most exciting week followed by the week of the most flow, but like not a lot happened, but we'll get into all of it. So let's start with just a little recap. My teachers, I'd just given them my number. They said, well, get in contact with me and we would have a circle, and like a physical medium circle. And lo and behold, that week, so 2 days later, it was Wednesday, they messaged me and was like, we'd love to have a circle with you. When are you free? And I was like, tonight. I am free. So I went round to their house and I did they made me a tea. We sat down and they've got this like pitch black room. And it wasn't pitch black. It had like red light, but it can be pitch black. So there's no windows or like everything's sealed. And it was surreal because they were like, look, sit down, we're going to play about 4 songs. Then my teacher's going to, I don't know what the word for it, I think channel. It's probably the best word, is going to channel his guide. And then we'll have a bit of a talk for about half an hour and we'll see where it goes from there. And so I'm trying to like get in a meditative state, and the first song that comes on is something off the radio station Magic, like some just chilled 80s song. And I'm like, well, at least they know what I listen to at work. Not out of choice, but just what we listen to at work. And the first 4 songs have played, I've got quite relaxed, and then immediately my teachers started channeling. Now, I can't remember if I've already said this, but his guide, or the person he channels, is called Percival. And we spoke about purpose, why I'm here, and the sense I got in terms of my purpose, it's I want to shine so brightly that I don't have to teach. I want to be able to be in such a state of flow and like presence that people that aren't in that state will either ask, how has he done it? Or even better, will go, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And therefore also be able to teach what I do. But in terms of what they see me for, my teachers and the spirits, they see me as basically becoming a master at physical mediumship. Now, we'll get into this later because I didn't actually find out what proper physical mediumship was until the following week. But they are very different. You've got 3 types of mediumship, if you will. But yeah, we'll get into that in a second. But then during all of this, my teacher's wife turned around to me and went, are you able to astral project? And I was like, no. And she went, well, either you or someone that looks like you just walked past me. So it was 3 of us in this circle. So the teacher in front, me and the wife on the other side. So my spirit guide walked to her, checked out her aura, and then walked to my teacher and checked out his aura. And they were like, you sure that wasn't you? I was like, yep, definitely not me. And they were like, well, that's the spirit that's been with you since day 1. And we're on week 10 now. So then it was week 9. Like, he's always with you and he looks almost identical to you. We also find out who this is the following week, but I didn't know at the time. My best guess was it's my higher self. Some people, when I did a live stream, said it may be an angel in disguise, something along those lines, but anyway, we'll get to that as well. And then when we finished, he came out of the trance. That's what it's called, trance. We left the dark room. I didn't see anything. I take that back. While I was talking to Percival, the guide, I saw my teacher's face change. And now he's got very long hair and always in a bun and a little white beard. But I saw like thick curly locks. And I'm like, well, that's not him. But that's all I can really say I saw. And I asked him afterwards, I was like, did I see the real Percival? Because I've watched Seven Deadly Sins. I know my mythology and my like historical lore on this kind of stuff. And I was like, are we talking about Percival from the Round Table? My teacher doesn't think they're connected, but I'm over here going, I think they are. Because he said he's had a couple of people think he works with Merlin, who's also part of that mythology. So that was an interesting coincidence. But then we had a little chat, because I basically told him that even though what we're talking about here, physical mediumship, is lovely, I see myself doing much more. Like when we talk about you can do anything in life, there shouldn't be a limit on what you believe is believable. So I was explaining some of the things I wanted to do, and he gave me the example of there's no point knowing everything. And so as the example, I was like, I want to be able to change a complete room so someone can learn a lesson outside of their own physical body. And I just gave the example of like turning into a cow or something like that. And he goes, well, here's a story that he's seen. Someone was advertising that they were the best either physical medium or transient medium, and which means that they are taking on a spirit's body or energy and like channeling them. And so they pay, they go, they're sat in the front row, and for an hour straight this guy came out and acted like a dolphin. And this isn't to say, when I say acted, I don't mean he wasn't channeling. Like this man, I wasn't there, I can't say for certain, but this man very well may have been channeling a dead dolphin and just living his best life as a dolphin for an hour on stage. But my teacher turned around to me and went, but how does that help? If there isn't a message, and this is the other part of me, is there has to be an element of truth in terms of how the universe works, how we're all connected to the one. Like if what you're doing, you can technically do anything, but if it doesn't connect you to that truth or help the people you're trying to communicate with, like unless he's going into the sea and acting like that for other dolphins, it makes no sense. And I was like, okay, good point. So that week came and went. That was but well, anyway, it was a really cool experience, especially knowing about the man that's kind of been with me the whole time. But then when I saw him that weekend, he was like, we can't invite you to the full circle yet, because there's usually like 5 of them, and the more people you've got, the more likely you are able to actually see spirit physically, with like ectoplasm and stuff like that. But when your energy isn't relaxed enough. And so that's basically what we did during this circle, was we tried to bring our energies together and like become one energetically. And he was like, your energy is just still very rough. And the image I've got of this is, I now have chosen the right path. I know who I am. I know who I want to be. But if you think of it like rain, when rain hits the mountain, the first streams are extremely chaotic. And it's not until those small streams have meandered down to like the lakes that you can finally see a reflection. And so it's not that my energy is negative or anything, it's just, it's very excitable, it's very energetic, and it needs to slow down a little bit, or appreciate. I don't know what the word is. Hence, I'm not there yet. But so that's what I've been trying to work on over the last 2 weeks. I've definitely improved this week. I feel a lot more calm. I've noticed that I can flow a lot better with life. It's not that I'm not still trying to manifest and be the best version of myself, but I'm much more willing to have faith and just trust that everything that's happening around me serves a purpose, which has been quite nice. But then there was the reading at the last week's reading. So at the church, it was this woman reading, and again she gave the whole I don't see spirits, this, that and the other, which is the whole point of me kind of coming in and lifting up the average mediumship weight, so that we have better mediums in this reality. But the man that was taking it, because there's a man that like calls out the hymns and stuff, and then there's the actual medium, he kept making it was like the funniest. I'll give you an example. The woman was giving a reading to a woman, and she turned around. It's an old woman. She goes, like, she's reading for an old woman. She goes, "You're a great listener. Like, spirit has told me you're a great listener." And the woman goes, "Sorry, what?" And then she replies, so with an even louder voice, and goes, "You're a great listener." Like, it started with that man, but we all basically erupted into laughter. So it was one of the funniest weeks I've been there. She actually gave me a reading as well. She said, she mentioned I've got a brother as well, like in spirit. She said that that I need to stay as confident as I can and to follow the path I'm on. Again, this is very much stuff I know, but like, it was still nice to hear it from her. And then my teacher also explained to me, because after my circle with them, I felt very drained and I doubted myself, like, for the next 24 hours. And I had to like logically go through it. I was like, wait, I'm here, I'm connected to the all. Like, why would I doubt myself? Like, why would I give up power that I know I have, or give energy to a part of me I don't want to manifest, which is doubt? But what that was where we all came together during the circle and we all took our energy out. Well, our energies were all combined, which is why I felt that doubt, because even though my teacher's extremely good at what he does, like, he's said it himself, he's doubted himself. He lacks confidence in this area, especially with physical mediumship, because you technically don't see what you're doing when you're in trance. He can only take what people have either videoed or have told him he's able to do. So there is that doubt within him, and I think I just took on that energy for 24 hours. But now, then the week that's just gone, it was a lot slower. I was really trying to embody that idea of relax my energy, take things slow. And the first thing I'll mention is my wife actually got a little bit scared, because the other day during a meditation, I was downstairs meditating. She was upstairs asleep, and she heard a whisper that sounded identical to me. It just said hello, but it sounded like I was in her ear. And what we reckon happened was I just astral projected while I was asleep, and like basically got her to wake me up because I had fallen asleep downstairs. But it freaked her out, and not in terms of she's scared of spirit or anything like that, but she's very much in her mother era. We've got 2 children, and she wants to, like, if this is part of her journey, she wants to keep that door shut. She doesn't want to be seeing spirits or anything along those lines while the children are young, and she wants her attention to be on them. which is very fair. But I asked my teachers to actually come round that following Tuesday. And so this week I've very much gone, this isn't my week, this is for those around me to almost catch up with how much I've done over the last 10 weeks. So it was very nice for them to come round. We had a tea, biscuits, my wife and them got on like a house of fire, which was amazing. And they were like, we will only have like a quick tea and whatnot. Well, an hour and a half later. They ended up leaving after like some very deep and meaningful conversations. But my wife slept like a baby. She felt a lot lighter, which was amazing to see. And then I got into, like, because they kept bringing up like physical mediumship over psychic mediumship, and I was like, well, let me find out what the different ships are, if you will. And so let me try and explain this here. You have 3 types of mediumship. Where's my camera? 3 types of mediumship. You've got clairvoyance, which is what everyone can do. Well, technically you can do all of these, but some people just their joy, their passion isn't mediumship, so you don't have to go any further than this if it's not a passion of yours. But I think everyone should tap into clairvoyance, and this is spirit sight, clairaudience, being able to hear spirit. You've got clairsentience, which is feeling people's emotions, and these may be things you already have. Just simple things like the idea of intuition. This is all clairvoyance, or forms of clairvoyance. And so this is what I use when I do tarot readings. But the problem with clairvoyance as a medium is you can only read what someone already knows. And so that reading where the woman was like, I can see your brother, that's because I was thinking about what happened at that circle where I've got a spirit guide or someone coming around me that looks almost identical to me. And so they would have picked that up as a brother if they had seen a face or something along those lines. But they can't give you any information that isn't that you don't already know. Now, don't get me wrong, I've been a tarot reader for 9, almost 10 years now. This is invaluable information if you do not trust yourself to hear information that you know, but from someone's mouth that you trust. If you do not trust yourself, it's still extremely important. And like, I do not look down on people that are just clairvoyant. But then you go to a psychic medium. This means you can physically sense them or see them or hear them, to the point that if they are there, you can ask them a question. And so the example I was given of this from my teacher was they had a psychic reader that didn't have a lot of faith within themselves, and they went, your mum's here. So the teacher was here, and his, I guess, other student and the person he was reading for was in front. And he's gone, I can see your mum. She's got her favourite book with her. She's saying, remember the book, it will help you. And so my teacher's turned around and gone, okay, go back and ask the spirit what the book was. And in disbelief, she was like, no, I can't do that. That's not something I do. And my teacher was like, no, just try. And so this is how you can tell the difference between a clairvoyant and a psychic. Because clairvoyance doesn't allow you to communicate with spirit. It just allows you to pick up the information that's already there. Whereas what happened here was when the student or the reader went back and went, what book was it? He saw the author's name on the book. And he said the author's name and was like, yeah, I know what book you're talking about. And the teacher went, don't tell him the book's name. So go back to your spirit that you're talking to now and ask for the name of the book. He got that right, and then he was trying to go further and went, so what's the message here? And he turned around and was like, there's this book. He basically said this book, what the actual meaning was, why the mother wanted this daughter to remember this book. And then the teacher tried once more and went, try and tell them the color on the inside. Like, is there any writing? Is there colors? And by this point, this person that thought they were only clairvoyant was so in shock they couldn't do any more. But so this is psychic mediumship. It's the ability to go back, to ask questions. And the parts I don't know yet is whether to be a psychic medium, I don't know if just tapping into it means you can speak to your guides, or once you've tapped into this, you can speak to your guides, other people's loved ones. The way I see it is it's more when you're speaking to other people's loved ones, when it's information you do not know, because you can then like get evidence and proof for yourself that what you're saying is correct. And then finally, so you got clairvoyance, psychic mediumship, and then the last one is physical mediumship, and this is what I'm trying to learn and practice. Physical mediumship is the physical appearance of spirit. This is why it's usually done in a dark room or very low light, like with red light, because you need things like I've already said the name, ectoplasm, which is produced by the main medium, and then it can form bodies. So I've heard loads of stories where like loved ones have passed away and they've come back in these circles and held their loved ones' hands. They've felt their hands being run through their hair. They've heard voices. But the funny thing with the circle I'm in, and what I didn't mention, was they've got a dog that joins in the circle. So my teacher told me that he actually asked like his spirit guides, why don't you like knock on doors or make a lot of noise during our circles, when that's something that they've heard happens very often. And the spirit guide turned around and went, oh, it's because you've got a dog. If I start banging, knocking on the door, the dog's going to get up and start barking. So it's nice to know that like spirit, it makes sense the moment you say it out loud, but you wouldn't have thought that without thinking it through. Like, it's nice that spirit is like thoughtful of your situation, and like this is how I plan on like protecting my family and being able to keep my wife out of it. I've told my spirit guides, like, if you're coming to me, I don't want to be able to hear you, like touch me, stroke my arm, like tell me you're here without making a noise about it. And then that way I can still follow my passion while my wife still is able to live like her perfect life until she wants to, if she wants to tap into this space. But yeah, that's the different forms. So yeah, physical mediumship is a completely different mind game. It's, if you just type in physical mediumship, you'll find a couple of really good podcasts, but they're very old, about stories of like chairs levitating and spirits speaking through like trumpets and things on the floor, which is all very cool to me. But here's the part where I'm like, I don't hold my past as a reflection of my future. I feel like if I'm coming to this space now, there has to be a way of doing it in the light, and I think that's what I'll end up bringing to this space. It may take me a couple of years, I'm not too worried about that. I just want to be as good as my teacher for now, but once I'm there, I want to then take it to the next step, which is physical mediumship out in the open. So I've heard like one of my greatest desires is the ability to manifest a voice. So I'm not talking clairaudience or like being able to hear what spirit is saying. I'm talking I could manifest a voice in this region or next to you, and it will sound like your loved one, you'll be able to talk directly to them and they'll be able to answer you. And so that's the end goal right now. And then this week, it was a much shorter church this week, and how but the reader was very good. It was him and his wife, this other couple, not my teacher, but he was very good. But my teacher went, you need to be able to tap into your guides and try and listen with your heart to see what form of mediumship they're using. And she went, they're using clairvoyance. And I was like, I couldn't tell. That it almost seemed like they could go back and get more information, which they were, but it was still through clairvoyance. They were getting more information on what the client knew, not new evidence, something that they couldn't have possibly known. So I'm gonna work on that this week, really trying to tap into my heart, and learn what it means to see, I guess. But it was quite good. But when we finished, we spoke after. I told him about all the stuff that I've been doing and like the research I'd done. But again, this week, this half of this week was very subtle. I didn't experience anything new in terms of things I saw. I did do a really cool meditation where I did a written one. And some of the stuff that I wrote down there was quite profound. I was like, one of the things that came to me, I've put a video up on the channel, but it's the idea of like how we grow in life, and it's not us jumping through different versions of ourselves, but it's once we reach a new version of ourselves, the old self is still there, and you have full access to all of those versions of yourself. And the trick to not fall back into the old version of yourself is that when you go back there, it doesn't feel negative. Do not allow yourself to be in a negative state when you're there. Do not be afraid of it, because you know you can very easily climb up and go back to where you were before. But I think that's pretty much it. And the reason it was quite a short church this week was because they had their annual, I don't know what it's called. They had their annual like breakdown. They showed all their profit for the week, for the year, sorry, and whatnot. So I like worked out they owned the building, which was quite cool. It meant they weren't leaving anytime soon. Like, they seem to be doing quite well for a church. But again, I haven't been to any others, so I don't know what other churches are like. And then I will finish with this, because they told me, or they'd worked out who the person walking around the room was. Now, I know my mum had a miscarriage between me and my sister at about 10 weeks. Now, again, this resonates highly with me. I don't know, because this has just stuck with me to the point that when I brought it up with my mum, she'd almost forgotten. We're talking 29 years later, and yet it's something that's like stayed with me. So it makes sense that the two are connected, but that's why they look so much like me. I do have a brother in spirit. I just never got to see them. And from the research I've done, spirit can kind of take form as early as 7 weeks. And it's the idea that that's when the pineal gland is developed. And it's not that the pineal gland is your spirit, but it's the pineal gland is a home. So if you think of a village, you can't have people in it unless you have homes. And so that's the earliest point a soul can enter and experience the physical reality. But it was extremely cool to finally find that out. We also said that when we are in another circle, we'll be able to ask questions and find out like why he's stayed with me all this time and why he's been so present, especially on this journey. So all of that was really cool. But yeah, I'll leave that there. So the last 2 weeks, it's been a slower 2 weeks, but I'm still very grateful that it feels like other people have been able to catch up with me, so that I'm not just leaving everyone behind. And like another thing that I've noticed is everyone's like, you're going to lose friends, people aren't going to understand what you're doing. Well, somehow whenever I speak, people always go, like, if I was speaking to anyone else, I'd say you're nuts, but because it's you, like, you get away with it. And so I think it's being patient, allowing this to play out the way it's meant to, has allowed everyone that loves this topic or is friends with me to kind of carry on and stay with me on this journey, which has been really nice. So to you, don't be scared to be yourself, and as long as you're willing to be yourself with time, be honest with people when it feels right, they'll be there on your journey with you. I'll see you in another 2 weeks.